Says 1, 2, 3.
Welcome to our comrades around the world to the Socialist Sunday Stream.
So welcome everybody to the Socialist Sunday Stream. This is the version that we recorded for YouTube because we had some problems streaming, and we streamed this week on Twitch, which will probably happen more often than not eventually. I'm gonna put you, punch you in the moment where we started recording this because we had like so many problems streaming, and take it from there. We had Marcos from Desmistificando Esquerda. We'll be talking a lot about and learning a lot about Brazil and issues regarding the current situation of Brazil with the awful fascist Bolsonaro. And all in all, so, saddle up and get ready. This is a good one. Have fun.
Good. So I guess we wanted to talk about Brazil and everything that's happening at the moment in Brazil. I feel like since all this other stuff has been happening politically, we've had so much less about Bolsonaro and things that are happening and the fires and the Amazon rainforest. Maybe you could give it, just fill us in on what's happening at the moment. Although I that's quite a broad question, so feel free to take that wherever you want.
I don't even know where to start, Bolsonaro was elected in 2018, and it feels like 20 years ago, I don't even remember what happened in 2018 anymore. So much stuff happened since the start of 2020. I don't even know where to start. Let me think. The fires in the Amazon rainforest, they started, I think, in December of 2019. And Bolsonaro didn't really do anything about that. Around the same time, we also had some oil spilling around northwest Brazil. So, that wasn't really resolved by the government. People just went to the beaches to clean up. A lot of people got sick. A lot of seafood got contaminated. And I remember that our Minister of Fishing, I don't know how to translate it, but the part of the government who take care of fishing stuff, he had published a video making fun of people that were worried about the contamination. And that is kind of the modus operandi of the Bolsonaro government, just make fun of everyone that's worried about everything. So the fires, we just waited it for it to die, to die out. There weren't really any government efforts to help it. I think it was just relegated to the public, people to go there and try to stop it. I remember that some Bolsominions, some supporters of Bolsonaro, they tried to stop people trying to stop the fire. It was bonkers, Then what happened
Sorry, can I just say, I think people are saying that it keeps pausing and it isn't working. The internet isn't working very well.
Don't worry.
Oh no.
Don't worry. Let's do the interview. I'm recording on my end anyway, and let's do the interview. And if it doesn't want to stream, I'll upload it. So don't worry
Okay.
about it.
Cool.
So, but it's the string, or it's me that is cutting.
No,
You
it's the whole thing. Don't worry about it. It's a technical
yeah.
problem with YouTube and OBS are not dealing very well with each other, and YouTube is not being very good for streaming lately. So
Yeah, I know how it is.
I'm thinking switching this to Twitch and recording only on YouTube. I mean, recording and upload the recorded version to YouTube. But
It might be a good idea.
let's continue with the meat of the thing. Don't worry about it. I'm recording.
Okay. So I'm trying to remember what happened in February and March. I know that we started having cases of COVID here in April, if I'm not mistaken. I think April and May. I know that, or no, it was March. It was March. I remember that I spent my birthday in March already in quarantine, if I recall correctly. And by May, I was fired because of the pandemic. And we are right now at 40,000 deaths by COVID. And
Do you think that now? Just ask. Can I just ask you there, Marcos? I've heard
Yes.
people saying that the deaths, what are being reported as the deaths, are only 1/7 of the actual deaths. They've done like all of these measures and stuff like that, and
yeah,
it just doesn't add up. What do you think about that? Do you think that's true? That might be accurate, or do you think there's under-reporting and under-reporting
Yes, like-
of these things? Or
our problems here is that we didn't do anything until it was too late. We are not testing anyone. We don't know who has it or not. We only discover cases when people go to the hospital. So, and a lot of deaths are being reported as respiration problems, not exactly COVID. So we really don't know how many cases we have for real and how many people died from COVID. Another big problem is that the right wing, they are convinced that we are inflating the numbers, that a lot of deaths were falsely reported as COVID, and that it's all a conspiracy from China with the São Paulo government. They are calling the São Paulo governor, João Dória, a dictator. And I mean, I do think he was kind of dictatorship, but not like this. Previously he was kind of that. So it's a whole mess, man. It's a whole mess, and we are reopening for business right now, which is a great idea. So yeah, things are very depressing.
Everywhere it seems to be opening up just for economic reasons, not because it's safe, not because things are okay, but because the economy needs to open up again.
Yeah,
it's a whole mess.
Yes.
Everywhere.
I think it was this week. There is a video going around. I think it was in Rio de Janeiro. They a non-profit organization. I forgot the anyway. They set up on the beach a memorial. Some hundreds of process on the beach, and an old Bolsominion went and knocked down each and every one of them, just out of spite, So,
That's unbelievable.
yeah. Also, this week, Bolsonaro said that the people should go fiscalize. I mean, go to the hospitals and check if they are indeed full, if they are using the beds and the equipments. And of course, his supporters invaded hospitals, invaded the bed, not the beds, the rooms, and attacked medical servers, and yeah.
Why? What was their reason? Why?
They do believe that we are making this up, making things all up. That we are lying, that we are not using the hospitals, that no one is sick, that it's all a big conspiracy against Bolsonaro. And he is feeding that narrative, and it makes people just, invade hospitals to beat up medics. And that has happened, a lot of medics got attacked, for being medics, for trying to help people. So that's the situation in Brazil right now. It's very depressing. It's very dangerous too, because you either die from COVID or die from the police or a Bolsonaro supporter being crazy, wanting to protect you.
And are there any sort of social safety nets or anything for people once they're unemployed or under quarantine not being able to work?
Kinda, but Bolsonaro really don't want it to exist, Before all of this, we had an unemployed program, I guess. If you got fired and you had registration in your worker documents, I don't know exactly if you have this kind of thing elsewhere, but here you have a document, like a worker card, that every time you get a job, the company has to sign you up, to make sure you have benefits, and that gets to count for your social previdence, I guess. Just before we continue, I have to say I'm sorry for pausing so much. I am always trying to remember what are the words in English, okay? And a lot of the terms I don't know what are the correct translation to English. So I'm sorry for that.
Oh, no worries at all. Don't worry.
Oh, so let us know if we can help you out.
We understand.
Yeah.
We completely understand anyway. There's no issue.
Yeah.
I probably don't even know the words in English myself.
And most people
That's okay, 'cause I'm
in the UK never learn another language, so
Yeah.
it's really cool that you do.
So there is that card, and if you are employed and that card got signed by the company, it counts to your social previdence. So when you retire, you have some money from the government, so it's a retirement plan. Bolsonaro is trying really hard to privatize that process, to basically, not even basically, like literally copy the way Pinochet used to do it on Chile. Like literally, our Minister of Economy, Paulo Guedes, he calls himself a Chicago boy. You know, he cites the Chicago boys a lot, and his proposal is exactly the same as the Pinochet one. So I don't know if any one of you know about that. I don't know exactly the details, but it's basically privatization of a social security net. And if you had that card signed, when you got fired, you can receive uh, a little bit of money from the government for about 3 months while you try to find another job. Now, during the pandemic, our left-wing Congress people, they managed to pass basically I don't remember the letters, but it's a universal basic income, UBI, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, so we kind of got it, a basic UBI. No, anyway, but he heavily restricted the people who can get this benefit to only unemployed people and people whose whole family income doesn't go above 2 minimum wages. So, for example, I cannot get this benefit. And also a really big lot of people who can get it did not receive it yet. They applied, they were approved, and they never received the money.
So the motherfucker is basically trying to score the name of the thing and without actually doing the actual thing. It's not universal, it's not basic, it's not income, it's just...
Exactly. A lot of poor people are not receiving it yet, and they really, really, really need it. And it's not even enough money, It was approved to be 1,200 reais, which is $200 or some 150 euros, around that. So it's nothing. You can even pay. I couldn't even pay my rent with that money. No, I mean,
no way you pay rent with that little money. Yeah.
Yeah, the full 1,200 reais, I could, of course, but he decided to pay it to half now and half later, So he only paid 600, and he didn't pay for everyone, and he's trying to delay to the max, paying the next half of it. And just to add salt to the injury, not him, about 30,000 military soldiers, military guys, receive the benefits, although they don't meet their requirements. They don't need it, and they took it. I guess it was even higher than that, but I don't remember the exact number. So, yeah, even the basic stuff that is giving money to poor people so they can keep living, he's not doing.
It's so crappy to see how you've got all these people suffering. The material conditions are awful, but what is it about Brazil, do you think, about the situation in Brazil that has made it fall toward, or at least move towards, this fascistic turn? what is it like? I mean, capitalism's not working very well for the normal common person in Brazil. So why is it taking this turn? What do you think it is about the conditions in Brazil, maybe historically or currently, that are giving rise to this fascistic tendency that we're seeing in fruition at the moment?
So I'm not an historian, so take everything I will say with a grain of salt. Like, Brazil kind of was constructed to be like this, you know. We can go far behind, like, to the 15,000, you know, when Brazil was discovered by the Portuguese. But, like, we started as colony, you know, and our independence was when the son of the king decided he wanted to be the king in Brazil and not go back to Portugal. So it's not really an independence, you know. Our king was still a Portuguese dude. And then,
colonizers.
exactly. And then he was, no, I don't think it was him, but his hair was deposed. I don't think that's the word, but he got quit out of the position by the military, and then we became a republic. And if I recall correctly, we are right now at our 6th republic, because we can't stop doing coups around here, you know. Every 30 years or so, we do another coup. Like, you know, Tumblestein, the...
Yeah, I do. Yeah, Tumblestein's good.
Yeah, I was
that.
talking to him privately sometime, trying to explain this out. And, like, it's a very funny story if you try to make it funny. But when you stop to think about it, like, we are really a politically crazy people, you know. We really love some dictatorship, you know. It's incredible. Like, if you want, I can try to do a quick, too long didn't read about it. I think it would be funny, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
go for it.
Okay,
Please.
so so I talked about how we did a coup we went from a colony to a Brazilian empire, and then for the First Republic. Then we had some wars with Paraguay. We basically destroyed the country, and then I think we jumped some centuries, and in the 1920s, I guess, around there, we can go back to talking to the history. And so, let me remember. I think the first dictator, properly saying, was Vargas. He was in an election run with another guy. I don't remember his name, but that guy won. Vargas didn't, and Vargas was really mad about it. So he talked to some military buddies of him, went to the elected guy and said, I really think you shouldn't be president. You know, you should maybe let me be president. And the guy looked to the military buddies of him and said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, you know. And so he wasn't the president, and Vargas was. Vargas was the president for about 10 years. I think he was for 4. And when he was getting to the fourth year and another election was going to happen, he pulled a communist card and said, no, there won't be elections. I will continue to be the president, you know. And so he was for another 6 and so years. And then the Second World War happened. He was kind of friends. I mean, not friends. He was simping Hitler hard, you know. He really wanted to be Hitler's friend. But then United States came and said, dude, I really think you should join the Allies and not the Axis, because if you don't, we will invade Brazil, okay? And that wasn't like a moral check from the United States. They really just wanted our economic support, you know. But since then, the United States heavily influences our politics, our decisions. So, okay, I think Vargas stayed president until the 1950s. No, before that, he stepped down. We had elections again, and then in 1950s, Vargas was actually elected as president again. And he was a dictator, you know. He pursued communists and anarchists. He killed a lot of us. I say us, but you know, as communists. And one of the most famous cases of this was when he deported Olga Benario. I don't know if you know about her.
No.
Basically, she was a communist militant, but she wasn't really Brazilian. She was Jewish German. But she was here. She was married to one of the biggest communist militants in Brazil, Luis Carlos Prestes. And during the Holocaust, Vargas, kind of as of a revenge against Prestes, he deported Olga back to Germany. She was pregnant, by the way. She gave birth in Auschwitz, and she was killed. Yeah. Her daughter, you know, their daughter survived. Her family managed to rescue the baby, and she is in Brazil. You know, she's still alive. Prestes isn't, but yeah, he did shit like that, you know, just out of spite. And he elected him, you know, because why the fuck not? And after he elected him, he was still kind of a shitty dude. So people started protesting against him. And he was like, fine, you don't like me? Fuck it. And he wrote a suicidal note in which he said that he would be stepping down from life to enter history, and then shot himself.
Fuck, no.
Yeah. Sometime later, some like 10 years later, in 1964, we had another coup, the biggest one that everyone knows about Brazil, the military coup of 64. It was against Django, you know, it's the nickname we gave him. And that nickname stuck so much that I don't remember his real name. But I do remember that his son ran for president in 2018, which was kind of cute, I think. But like he wasn't really a socialist. He was more like a democrat, social democrat. But he had a plan to do some agronomical reform. He distributes the land and give more power to the peasants. I don't know if that's the term, but and our bourgeoisie really didn't like that, and the military really did not like that. They accused him of being a communist, which in Brazil is the same thing as I don't know. I don't think there is any other insult in Brazil as heavy as communist, or at least they try it to be as heavy as that. And they kind of panic attacked. It wasn't really. They had the plan to do the coup, but one of the generals, he was like, "I'm going right now. Fuck it." And he started marching towards Brasilia, if I recall correctly. And his general friends were like, "Dude, not right now. We are not ready." And he said, "I'm already going. I will not stop now." And everyone said, "Okay, fuck, let's do it." And so they did. They reached Brasilia, and and Django when he heard about it, he was like, "Will someone be on my side?" And the Congress said, "No, fuck you." So he ran to Uruguay, and the Congress was like, "Wow, what a coward that Django is." So they made a big speech where they said that Django just deserted, and that he left the presidency vacant, and they declared like officially the presidency vacant, and so the generals just entered and sat on the throne. I don't know if I need to resume the 64 dictatorship. It was brutal, very bloody. A lot of people got tortured, especially communists, but not only communists. Even some right-wing guys were persecuted, and it was like just another dictatorship in Latin America. I think there was at least another 3 at the same time, but it's a very sad time in our history. Around the 1980s, the dictatorship was losing momentum. They were kind of relaxing a bit, and they were very economically broken. So they held elections for the first time in some decades and were voted out of office. So the dictatorship didn't really got defeated. They just stepped down, They just let it go. And they were not responsibilized. I don't think that's a word. But they didn't face any charges about it. We had an amnesty program, both for the persecuted people and the military dudes, So guys like Ustra that we knew had tortured thousands and killed hundreds. He was free. He didn't face any charges. He wasn't deposed of his military position, and he wrote a book trying to defend himself, saying, "Oh, it wasn't that bad, and we were justified in everything we did." And Bolsonaro has the book. He says this his bad side book, and like he cited Ustra when he voted for Dilma to be impeached. Dilma was the last PT president, the Workers' Party here president. And like, I think that's the biggest mistake we did on our redemocratization, that we didn't do anything with the dictators. We didn't arrest anyone. We didn't sue or charge anyone. We didn't ask for reparations. Nothing. We just ended the dictatorship.
And why did no one ask for reparations? Or
I don't know. I really don't know. I guess like
same that happened in Chile, same that happened in Spain. The dictatorship was just transitioned into something that was basically continuism.
So yeah, like we have this history of having coups, supporting coups, and not really doing anything about the coups even after we get back to democracy, So it's very depressing.
Everywhere in Latin America, it's so fucked up. Not just Latin America, obviously, but it's a story that you just hear time and time again. You get some progressive government in, like a center-left social democratic government. Venezuela, Bolivia, Nicaragua have held on to their social democratic governments for a long time. They're still kind of an anti-imperialist country, and fair play to them for that. But I think it's worth criticizing the pink wave movement and this kind of social democratic, we can make everybody happy, we can conciliate the classes, we can have equality, we can raise the standards of living for everyone, and we're not going to touch the ruling classes, they're going to be fine, none of this guillotine talk, we're not going to expropriate anything, nothing too radical. But of course we see it again, you make a few years of progress and then they just fucking steamroll back through all of it, And it seems to be that's what's happening in Brazil. It seems to be that's what happened in Bolivia as well. Now Bolivia have a fascist government after all the incredible achievements that were gained under Evo Morales' government, and it's awful to see. And I don't know. I don't know. Do you still? I don't know. I don't know how democratic you are, or whether you would take a much more like fucking just fuck it off with their heads kind of approach.
I think we do need revolution, and that the revolution will be violent. You can't have a peaceful revolution, especially not in Latin America. It won't happen. They always fight back. But I don't think it's a simple thing. You just grab some weapons, get your buddies together and do it. We actually had that happen. Prestes, the guy I told before, he did kind of try that. He did we call it the communist intent. In Portuguese, we call it the intentona comunista. Intentona as a kind of
an attempt.
But the word exactly that we use is a joking way to talk about the intent,
Yeah.
So like that's the official historical term because he was a military. He got a bunch of communist military buddies, and they tried to go to several headquarters, I think. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Yep.
Cuarteles generales, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he tried to go to those and get their support, military support. And he got some, but a lot of them just refused, So he didn't go anywhere. He was arrested for that, and he died. Not him, the intent died. So the Brazilian socialist revolution will be a really hard thing to happen, because you need to have popular support for that, and we don't have it.
There's a lot of ingredients you need for a successful revolution. You need to have popular support, of course. Yeah, you need to have a socialist infrastructure so that you actually have your revolution, and you get the handover, and you hand it over to the workers through the unions, tenant unions, union organized community organization, workers unions, all of these things, so that the workers can take control. They actually can take power. Because what happens today after the revolution, if you don't have that infrastructure built up, you just fall back into capitalism. It's the exact same thing, but now it's red capitalism with the red flag, and it doesn't actually do anything. You don't get anywhere, You need to have the infrastructure. You need to have that strong community structure. You need to have a moment of crisis. You need a crisis moment. That's really, really important. And then, of course, you need a party, a vanguard party, to actually take you through the revolution. Of course, other people disagree with that perspective, but historically, that's been how successful socialist revolutions have been carried out. And if you don't have all three of those things, then you don't have a socialist revolution. A successful socialist revolution, I should say.
Exactly. We have the crisis right now. It would be a perfect crisis, but we don't have the popular organization, and we don't have the vanguard.
It takes decades to build. Decades, You need to build up forces as well. Like you need to build up your own military, like a people's army, to do this.
Exactly.
Stuff. It's hard, man.
One of Brazilian's currently biggest leftist figures, it's Sabrina Fernandes. She has a YouTube channel, and she published this book.
Cool.
I'm still reading it. It's called Morbid Symptoms: The Crossroads of the Brazilian Left. It's about the last 10 years of Brazilian politics, and it's especially about how fragmented the Brazilian left is. We are not in a position to start a revolution right now. So it's a lot of momentum that we are not taking advantage from, because we don't have the support, we don't have the base, we don't have a vanguard. We have PT, that was the biggest and strongest leftist party, but they were never really socialist. And they tried their hardest to conciliate things. They want to be the possible left, the only left that can be elected. Then you have PSOL, that is one of the biggest socialist parties that still is in Congress. Marielle Franco was from PSOL. But they are filled with contradictions. They don't have a centralized theoretical basis on the party. So they are all over the place. You have
Maybe left
ML socialists, you have social democrats, and you also even have Zionists in the party. So
That's
it's
a difficult one to get into.
problem. It's a big problem.
I mean, one of the things that you need to take into account that is different than the 20th century is the power of the media and social media and platforms and mainstream media. A lot of people are still getting their ideology from fucking TV as of the 21st century. And where all those private TV stations, all those private monopolies on media that are happening now are one of the main hurdles to have people have even a glimpse of a world that could exist outside of capitalism, not to say, to start a revolutionary process. But
it's a good point. We need to build up that dual power, our own networks, to counteract these, to counter hegemony, as you would say.
If I'm not wrong, Brazil is the only Latin America country that does not have a Telesur filial, a Telesur local. And that is Lula's fault. Lula declined Telesur.
Yeah. Because he was too moderate for that shit. Yeah. And even like that, the whole process, the whole fake case against Lula and Dilma, that happened with all those fascisty judges. The guy that is now is he still the justice minister?
He stepped down, didn't he?
He stepped down, yeah.
He declined.
But still, he got the prize for having behaved like a good dog, right, and hunting the prey for the master.
Exactly.
So, one thing that we need to ask ourselves is how do we take fucking Bolsonaro down? How do we take him down? Things the way they are as of today in Brazil. How do we cut their fucking head?
Our Brazilian institutions, like the Supreme Court and the Congress, they don't work. They don't exist. We can't count on them. They are all full of contradictions. Like the STF is always under attack from Bolsonaro, even before he was elected. They always threatened to invade the Congress, invade the STF. STF is the Supreme Tribunal Court, anyway. And they kind of chicken out with Bolsonaro, They do something here and there. They stop some things from passing, but they don't do anything. They don't investigate him. They don't investigate his sons. They don't, I think we are at 60 plus impeachment requirements, something, applications, I guess.
Requests,
they don't start the process. They don't really try to do anything. Every time they try to do something, and the Bolsonaro guys fight back with only threats, they chicken out. They go back. They don't continue doing anything. So we can't count.
But as someone who is there, do you feel like people out there in the streets are like tired of Bolsonaro bullshit?
Yes, I do believe it, but I think it's kind of 50-50. There are a lot of people that are really angry at him. A lot of people do want him out, but also a lot of people who want him there and wants him to just do another coup already, to abolish the Supreme Court, to abolish Congress, and do whatever he wants to do.
Speaking
So,
of
like,
which,
we
speaking of
cannot
which,
count
there
on
was that
the-
scare. There was the scare about the military, right? What happened with that?
Sorry?
There was that scare about the military wanted to kick Bolsonaro out of office themselves. What happened with that? There was that rumor.
That kind of died down, you know. It was just a rumor. The fact is that even if the military don't like Bolsonaro, they like that he is keeping the left out of government and keeping them in, you know. Like, again, today we have more military people in government positions than we had in 64, you know,
Yeah.
in the entire 64 military dictatorship. So Bolsonaro already kind of did a coup, you know. He already has the power. The institutions won't get him out. The institutions won't stop him from doing anything that he really wants, you know. The only ministers he has that fall from the positions they held are the ones that either he doesn't like anymore, like the two health ministers that were fired in 1 month. You know, he had one, he fired him, hired another guy, and fired that guy like 2 weeks after. Or people who he doesn't really care that are there, you know, that they say something shitty or do something shitty, we fight back, and then he drops them, and whatever, you know, it wasn't really crucial to his plan. We have like the two worst ministers he has is the education minister and the environment minister.
Mm.
And also you have another one that is really shitty, that is the women's rights minister, and our exterior relationships, international relationships minister. He's also very shitty.
So pretty much
All of
them.
those is essential. Yeah, no, everyone in the Bolsonaro government is a real piece of shit. But like these four are really essential to he.
They're pyromaniacs in the fire department, right?
Sorry?
Pyromaniacs in the fire department.
Exactly. And like Salles is the one on the environment ministry, and like he's essential to Bolsonaro because he controls, not really he controls, but he's the bridge to the agropecuary guys that historically have always run Brazil, really. You know, they are our bourgeoisie. I can talk more about that later if you want. Go in details. So he's the bridge with that. The human rights woman, Damaris, she's a bridge with the churches, you know, because she's also not pastora. I'm trying to remember. She's like a televangelist, you know. So she's a bridge with them too. We have Ernesto. I don't even want to try to say his surname. It's kind of complicated in Portuguese to say. So he is the education minister, and he's always very important because he controls the educational materials in Brazilian schools, so he can like easily institutionalize anti-communism. He write our history. He can. I mean, also with the Ernesto guy, he's constantly trying to change the universities. The head of the universities, I don't know the name in English, the Heitor. It's basically the directors.
Different names, but yeah, the head of the university is fine.
Yeah, the head of the university, and the public universities, that is, again, to better control the courses. And that's not just like a conspirational thing of you can change the education to blah 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 to achieve an objective. The Brazilian student movement, they are historically a great force, in Brazil. They fought hard against the 64 dictatorship. They fought hard against Temer's presidency, the last one before Bolsonaro. So they are a force, and if Bolsonaro can take control of the directors of those universities, he can defund the universities. He can defund the UNE, the National Union of Students, and basically weaken our opposition, against him. The students are a very important force of fighting, against the government. And lastly, the guy on the international affairs, I mean, he's really obviously important. He is our biggest diplomat, and he has done a lot of damage. He started a fight with China. He's friend with Bloomberg. I guess it's Bloomberg with the name. Bannon, I think it's Bannon too. Those guys who helped Trump,
Yeah, cons.
It seems like Steve Bannon is behind a lot of far right governments and projects all over the world. Like Steve Bannon is behind this Vox, the Spanish Nazi party, is he's behind that shit, Yeah. So, but one thing that you need to tell everybody in Brazil is, like, from the outside, the whole Bolsonaro affair. It's like a sad ass, pathetic clown, but a very dangerous one. But Brazil is losing all kinds of prestige to the outside world. It's like a bad joke.
Yeah.
Problem is, Brazilian people are the butt of the joke.
No, and here nobody cares. Like, there is a really hard divide in Brazilian society between left, right, and not exactly center, but apolitical people.
People who don't give a fuck.
Yeah, you are either people who don't give a fuck or don't have any idea what's going on.
Yeah.
People on the right, they kind of live in their own reality, where they truly believe that the Workers' Party destroyed Brazil. And like it's mind-boggling to try to debunk that, because it's very obviously not true. Brazil was at his best in the end of the first Lula term. he was still we were still really great economically and internationally speaking when Lula stepped out of office, and we only started to decline with Dilma, and that was because Dilma, not exactly because Dilma was incompetent, but because she was very sabotaged, because
Sabotaged,
our
right?
sabotage. Because if I recall correctly, we discovered the pre-salt area of oil, of petrol, here in Brazil around the time she was president, and she was like, okay, so we'll have Petrobras extracting this oil and selling it. Our bourgeoisie wanted us to not extract the oil, to not process the oil, to do the thing correctly. They wanted us to sell the area to private corporations. So, like, Dilma was against that, and so they worked to try to get her out of office. Bolsonaro actually went ahead with that idea. I think he's still trying to privatize Petrobras and privatize our pre-salt. And it's kind of the same thing that happened to Venezuela. They can't have a Latin America country have control of oil. But aside from that, here in Brazil, the right wing, they don't care about our international image. They don't care that we are a joke outside of here. They truly believe that everyone is against us, and by us they mean the right. They mean Bolsonaro. And they truly do believe that everything that's against Bolsonaro is a communist sock puppet.
We wish.
Could you imagine?
I really do. Like,
That'd be deadly.
Globo. The TV Globo. They were the ones that got us in this situation because they campaigned hard against Lula, against PT. They took every little misstep from the government and blew it out of proportion. And then they are trying to control Bolsonaro, and now they are the enemy. Now they are a communist TV station. They are the devil. And dude, we want the Globo to stop existing,
Yeah.
You guys,
Historically.
yeah, you guys arrived at this conversation right now, and we have a saying for that in Portuguese, that is, você chegou agora e já quer sentar na janelinha. It's something like, you just arrived at the bus and you want to sit at the window, and we kind of completely lost control of the narrative, So now PT destroyed Brazil. Globo is communist. We have banks here that are communist too, because they ran a pride ad, everything they don't like is communist. Everything they don't like is Stalinist. It's
Stalinist tomatoes.
Yeah, it's very maddening to be a leftist in Brazil right now.
Yeah, because that's the game of the right. They play a narrative, a crazy narrative that has nothing to do with reality, but reality doesn't matter. It's their
Exactly.
story, their fairy tale, and many people fall right into it because it's a very simple fairy tale with the goodies and the baddies. And
Exactly.
everybody falls for it because if it's a very simple thing, there's no nuance, there's no need to understand anything. You just go with the story and go for it. Now, how do we fight this shit? How do we fight this fantasy bullshit? How do we find solutions for it?
I still believe that the best thing we can do is to reach out to people, talk to them, start by our close friends, our families, our co-workers. Co-workers is a little bit more dangerous, but friends and family is a little bit better. Talk to them, try to make them see reality, but that's still really fucking hard, a lot of people just will stop talking to you. Even family members will stop talking to you. I have some family talk to me anymore. They blocked me on Facebook. I have an uncle who threatened to kill me. Not
Fucking hell. I'm so sorry to hear that. That must be really difficult.
Yeah. Reaching out to people is important and really fucking difficult, So what I think should happen is our socialist parties should start to organize the bases, preparing not only to do the militant work, but to prepare for fighting against the repression that I do believe is coming, Bolsonaro has said a lot of times that he is getting tired of the protests, he's getting tired of the press, the Supreme Court, and blah, blah, blah. And until now, it's just threats. But I think it's not wise to underestimate him, And yeah, I think we need to try to break the spell,
One thing I try with apoliticals a lot is not putting names on things. It's not not being overtly self-evident. Like, hello, I'm a leftist. Here's join our party. But instead, I go like, do you know how much you have to produce to get paid? And do you know you have to produce like 3 times what you get paid for you to get paid what you get paid? Because otherwise, your boss don't take a cut. Do you think that's right? Yeah, you go with conversations. You talk about let's say that the matters, but you don't really talk about you don't have to talk about anything else. Just the matters, the subjects, every little thing, Say, in that way, it's easier to get to the clueless people, to the people who are outside of politics, because politics are so 20th century, and we don't care. And it's fine. Most people want to live a peaceful, clueless life, not giving a fuck. I mean, that's what everybody wants. But, the thing is, the things are so fucked up, and we need to show everybody that things are so fucked up. And it's not for the reasons that those tricksters are trying to tell them, right? So, yeah, people are trying to mess with Petrobras, right? But it was not Dilma Rousseff, motherfucker. It was the motherfuckers who tried to privatize the thing. So they were trying to steal from the Brazilian people, for instance. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just. I don't mean to interrupt, but I have to head off now. I've got a few things to do this evening. So I'm sorry to jump out, but Marcos, you're a legend. I love you. Lots of love to the two of you.
Thank you, man.
Everybody. You're fucking champions. Join a communist party, educate, agitate, and organize. Make the revolution happen. That's the only way to do it. Cheers, everyone. Love you
Bye,
all.
Paul.
Mwah. Take care.
Bye. Paul.
Cheers.
Bye. So yeah, one thing I also kind of try to say to people that follow me on Twitter is that at least here in Brazil, online activism is not enough. It's beginning. It is useful, but we have like 30% of people in the whole Brazil don't have access to internet. And a lot of those people don't follow politics really. And even then, you never know if you're talking to a real person or a bot or a troll, So I try to say, like, don't waste your time debating on Twitter, on Facebook. Spend that time trying to debate on real life.
Yeah.
Because, like, I did that one time. I was at a Christmas party, I guess, and there was a bunch of my mom's friends there, and I started to talk about, surplus value, about not exactly saying the terms, trying to be very didático.
Yeah, very, very, very teaching, very didactical, right? Very, yeah.
About it, like, they didn't left the party being communists, but they said they agreed with me. They saw the problem with Bolsonaro. They saw that communists are not the devil. It helps. It's a start.
And not just that, but even, I don't know, going out, and actions often speak louder than words. So if your friends and everyone can see that you're going out there, you're helping homeless people, you're helping poor people, you're trying to fight against climate change, then they're going to be like, oh, this is a good person, maybe I should be doing more than this, more things like this, and ask you more questions and come to you. I feel like that's often helpful. Or the communities in which you're helping out, then people will be like, oh, hey, who are you affiliated with? What are you doing? And why are you here? And get more people organized that way, I think is helpful. Also, I think it's just helpful in general to also be like, hey, I read this book recently, I think you might like it, or I watched this clip on YouTube, or like, I don't know, stuff like that is often really useful as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, propaganda of the deed, right?
But I just get so frustrated because I feel like, I don't know, I'm generally quite an optimist, but when, I don't know, from listening to everything that you were talking about, I was getting progressively more and more like disheartened, just thinking like, fucking hell, we have 10 years for climate change, and Bolsonaro, I don't know what he's even doing. Is he in terms of the Amazon rainforest? We don't even hear that anymore. That's like news from 3 weeks ago. No one cares anymore. But I mean, I don't know.
More depressed.
Do I want to get more depressed? Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so when Sergio Moro stepped down from the ministry, he did it because, he gave a public speech. He called the reporters to record, and he said he was stepping down because Bolsonaro tried to get over him to nominate a dude to the federal police department, to be the head of the federal police. And that's a thing that Sergio Moro was supposed to do, and he didn't want the dude, and so on. So Bolsonaro said, no, I didn't want to do that. And then Sergio Moro said, yes, you did. I have the receipts. I have the ministry reunion taped. Every reunion is taped. So I will release that, and everyone will see that you were an asshole. So they released the tape like 2-3 weeks after the fact, and among a whole lot of atrocities that were said, Salis, the guy on the environment ministry, he said we should take advantage of the pandemics, take advantage that no one is looking, and approve everything we can on the environment thing, you know.
Yeah. They applied the shock doctrine, right? Now that everybody's distracted with the pandemic, let's pass these laws, the shitty environmental laws.
Yes, and they're doing that in the UK, they're doing that in the US, they're doing that in Australia, everywhere. All these sneaky things that they're doing in the background whilst they think that we're distracted. It's unbelievable.
We're lucky in Spain. We got the coalition.
So Bolsonaro is trying very hard. He's doing his best. You know, he's a very esforçado.
He's really hell bent into
sneaky
on killing the planet. You know, he's doing everything he can to kill the planet.
Yeah, it's his mission.
And not on the planet, but the Brazilian public. You know.
Oh, yeah.
He's doing everything he can to cure with COVID.
Motherfucker.
So what is happening with the Amazon rainforest at the moment? So like the fire, with all the fires and everything, where are we at now?
Let me Google it a little bit, just quickly. But I know that they are still kind of trying to hide that they are still deforesting. You know, they are still chopping trees, and they are still invading indigenous people's reserves. You know, like if I can find it on Twitter, I can send to you. There was a photo doing a comparison. Like a year, how much they destroyed in a specific reserve, but I don't know if I will find it.
How's the situation? How's the situation in Brazil with the firearms thing? Can people have firearms?
Not yet. You know, Bolsonaro is still trying that. I didn't find the specific post, but I can find the profile. Okay, I'll send to you on our chat. You can follow this guy. He's a fiscalization dude on IBAMA. That is a government body specific to dealing with the indigenous people reserves, you know, to protect the indigenous people. And of course, it was heavily defunded by Bolsonaro. Heavily, they try to control IBAMA, you know, to take the director of IBAMA out and putting Bolsonarist in the place to aid in the destruction of the indigenous people and the environment. About firearms, I believe it is still banned. You know, you still can't have one, and you can't carry one. So both, you can't have one at your home, or you can, but it's really difficult to have, sorry. But you definitely cannot have one outside, you know, on the streets. Which, of course, it being Brazil means shit, you know. The laws in Brazil means absolutely nothing. So yeah,
I was thinking mostly about the ability of the people to overthrow the government by force.
Well, I don't know. I think like if there are any leftist organization getting armed, they thankfully are not public about it, as they shouldn't,
Of course.
Of course. I don't know if there are any
And
normal people.
in other fronts, like the media, maybe are there like proper media, like Media Ninja and people like that? Let's say alternative media that undo the lies of the mainstream media.
Yeah, like we kind of do. We do have alternative media, but they are not 100% good. They are kind of liberal still, but they are there. They are accompanying our protests. They are defending the protests. They're trying to do their jobs. But yeah, that's the problem. Everything here gets co-opted by the liberal left. So we like 2 weeks ago, some people started to posting the Antifa flag, using the Antifa flag as profile icons, and then they started to customize the flag, changing the colors, changing the words. So you had things like teachers and Antifa teachers, Antifa magics, which is cool. But then you started to have hot girls, Antifa hot girls, Antifa law players, Antifa football enthusiasts, and the thing rapidly started to lose their meaning.
Yeah, they're turning
So
Antifa into a product, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Literally, there was a guy that started to sell Antifa customizable pins. So Brazil is a very dystopian neoliberal hellscape right now. We have a TV presenter, a TV guy. He has a TV show. His name is Luciano Huck, not Hook, so only. He has a program on Globo, and he is considering running for president. He's kind of campaigning for being president, and he is neoliberal. We have an expression in Brazil that is the puro suco de, so is the pure juice of, and in his case, he's the pure juice of neoliberalism.
Yeah.
So we even the Marxist talking points kind of get co-opted by liberals. Liberals are trying to push for ample front, I guess that's the term. Wide front against Bolsonaro, and they are, they say that we have to ally with everyone that is against Bolsonaro, but that everyone is literally everyone, even people who supported Bolsonaro and heavily campaigned for him, that now are kind of regretting that decision, that jumped his ship. We should ally with them. and like that's obviously a very bad idea. You can't, like, imagine if we asked Bernie to ally with Charlie Kirk against Trump.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
No.
Exactly. So, and then when we try to say, look, that doesn't make any sense, that will be like shooting yourself on the foot, they start to cancel us on Twitter. So it is very difficult to even start to have leftist radical alternative discourse here in Brazil.
The thing that I'm trying to wrap my head around is, what are Brazilians in general, their view on the US and Western capitalism and things like that? Because I would have assumed, given the history of colonialism and coups and like Western intervention and exploitation and slavery and all of that, that there would have been sort of a united front of disdain towards Western capitalism, towards this form of exploitation. Or do you think it's the remnants of, I don't know, psychological colonization as a result of the colonial period? And I suppose, I don't know, it's just really, it's hard, well, it's not hard to understand, I get it, but do you think in general most people are very pro-Western capitalism and have like a favorable opinion of the US and West in general?
I mean, we have a saying here that Brazil is the backyard of the US. Since, I guess, the 1910s or even before of that, we don't really consume Brazilian culture. We only consume US culture. So, like, all of our films that go on television are American films. All of the movies on our cinemas are American movies. We are also, we are trained already. I don't know if that's the word I want to use, but to only refer to the United States as America. We almost never use America for all of the Americas. The South America, the Central America, and the North America and Mexico. We at most use Latin America, but we always use America to refer to the United States, and we
do that too.
Yeah. So like all of our media is based on the United States, to the point that people associate Brazilian cinema with bad, Brazilian comics with bad. Everything that is produced in Brazil, every media that is produced in Brazil is bad. That's the common sense, which is not true. I talk to Javi sometimes about our cinema. I am always recommending movies to him.
Yeah, Robert Rocha for life.
Yeah. But like we consume everything from the United States, even their cultural tropes, that do not translate to Brazil at all. We consume like the dichotomy between the nerd and the jock, and the cheerleader. We don't have those things here. We don't have cheerleaders. We don't have the jock or the nerd. Of course we have nerds, but we don't have that dynamic here in Brazil. We only started to have that dynamic after we started to consume movies about that dynamic. You know, we don't have houses with gardens and backyards and pools, you know, like in the suburbs,
The suburbs.
you know,
Yeah.
suburbs from the United States. Like our architecture is nothing like the North America architecture.
Yeah, that's very specific to them, actually. Yeah.
Exactly. So like we do mold our entire culture against the United States culture, even though it does not fit here, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the most bizarre things we have about that is Christmas, you know, because we are in the global south, literally. When we hit Christmas, you know, in the December, it's hot as fuck here.
Yeah.
You know, you are in the middle of summer, and then you go to anywhere in the streets and you find fucking snowmans
Yeah.
out of plastic.
Yeah. It happened to me in Buenos Aires last Christmas. It was like, what the fuck?
Like, why do we have snowmans here in Brazil?
Fake snow. Yeah.
Exactly. It's really it's kind of stupid, really, you know. But yeah, we have reindeers here, you know, model of reindeers. We have the snowmen. We have fake snow on the trees. Like, it doesn't make sense, you know. Of course, we have a Christian tradition. Sadly, we have a Christian tradition here. So, okay, I guess we could celebrate Christmas. But why do we do it specifically in the United States way, you know?
Yeah.
So
I must interject here to say fuck Christianity. Really, fuck it. Sorry.
yeah. No, I agree.
It ruined the fucking world. Fuck Christianity. No, I mean, with all respect to our Christian leftists, but yeah, it did fuck the world. Let's face it.
Yeah. It's very hard to find good examples of the Christian church doing actual good in the world. You know?
I mean, theology of liberation and everything that was very linked to Latin America. There were very good examples, but you know, overall, if you weigh the good against the bad goes like tips the scales, and yeah.
Like, especially in Latin America, not only the Christian church, you know, the Catholic church, but the
evangelicals.
Evangelicals.
They're fucking crazy. They're a fucking cult. Evangelicals are fucking dangerous. They practice like a strange variant of Christianity that has nothing to do with the whole praying and the priest and it's all about getting into a mindset that you believe whatever and go like ooh crazy you enter into a trance and then you become a fucking extremist. It's very, very dangerous.
And more than that, they are a political force here too, you know.
Yeah.
Here in Brazil, in Bolivia, you know, the girl that did the coup in Bolivia, she was an evangelical and she was backed by evangelicals. You know, it's really, really complicated.
Yeah. The thing in Bolivia is fucking crazy because they were like the one of the smallest parliamentary presences in Bolivia, and then they become interim president. It's because and they had the help of the OIE, the
and the United States.
Yeah, and it was on a fake suspicion of electoral fraud that right now it's proven that there was no such thing as an electoral fraud, but they only had a suspicion, and they had a suspicion that was backed by the OEA, and boom, coup d'etat, motherfuckers. with the help of the military, the United States, and the fucking evangelical church. It's like, but yeah, in Spain we have something of the Catholic branch. They call the Opus Dei, the work of God, in which they have infiltrated all the rich people, all the oligarchies in Spain, all of the richest and the most powerful, all of the judges, all of the higher charge in all of the bodies of police, and they have all of them in their fucking pocket. Those are dangerous organizations. They should be treated as terrorist organizations if there was like a thread of decency in our governance. But instead, they let them do. They're the fucking mob. And same with evangelicals. They have the same. And we have Legionarios de Cristo, the Legionaries of Christ, which is more or less the same bullshit. You know, they infiltrate in the highest echelons of societies from a religious standpoint, quote unquote. But what they're pursuing is power and an agenda, a very right-wing agenda that is, you know, basically dedicated to fuck and subdue us, all of us. Fuck us, the poor, and get the rich, make the rich richer. Sorry, alliterate.
No, yeah.
I enjoyed that, Javi.
I did too. So yeah, we are talking about the U.S. influence in Brazil, right? Yeah. So it's basically that, you know, we consume everything they throw at us. We don't consume anything from Brazil. We hardly fund any Brazilian projects. And also another Bolsonaro project is to destroy our cinema completely. Like he defunded the Cinemateca.
Yeah.
How would they?
The Cinematheque. Cinematheque.
Cinemateca. You know, a library of Brazilian movies. They defunded Anvisa, that is the agency for cinema in Brazil. They put a bunch of crazy people on the Minister of Culture. You know, first we had a guy that had the nerve to copy Goebbels.
Yeah.
You know, the
I
guy.
remember that one. Yeah.
He copied his speech. He copied his aesthetic, his theatricals. I was like, dude, come on.
What the?
In your face.
Like, that's it's insulting that you think no one would
Notice.
see it.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. Like,
Wait, what was he doing? Like in a film or?
They had this minister. They had this minister who copied a speech by Goebbels with gestures, theatricals, and everything. Everything. It was fucking ridiculous. But you know, one of these things that make me a little bit skeptical about these theatrics from the right is that they do this on purpose. So this shit goes viral and everybody talks about it.
yes, exactly.
So they make huge fuck ups, but they don't look bad. They just happen. You know, there's no such thing as bad publicity, even when they're on the government. You know, but they're still in the media every day, all day. That was the Trump strategy all the time in the United States, for instance. So Trump was saying the stupidest thing that he could imagine because he knew the media would echo it and he would get free publicity, motherfuckers.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like Bolsonaro does everything that Trump do. You know, everything that Trump did on his campaign, Bolsonaro tries to do. Everything that Trump does in his government, Bolsonaro tries to do. And everything that Trump says to Bolsonaro that he should do, he does. So Bolsonaro severed contracts with China because Trump said Bolsonaro to do that. And then Trump went and did a contract with China. You know, we were at least the largest exporter of soy in the world, and the country that bought soy from us the most was China, and we stopped that contract because Trump said so. He said you shouldn't sell to China anymore, and so Bolsonaro said, okay, we won't. And a lot of farmers got really angry with him because now they wouldn't profit anymore. And like 2 weeks later, Trump did a soy contract with China, to sell soy for China.
Motherfucker.
Yeah. But, these monocultivations like soy and stuff, they're very dangerous stuff in general for any country's economy. I think there was something very similar going on in Argentina not long ago, like 10 years ago or something.
Yeah, like Venezuela broke because they invested everything on the oil, and when the international markets decided to fuck Venezuela, all they had to do is to lower the price of oil.
Yeah.
Suddenly Venezuela didn't have a income anymore. So
that's a basic in geopolitics regarding economies, that diversify your fucking economy, because if your economy is going to be dependent on this one factor, if everybody's want to fuck you up, they're going to do it because they have
exactly.
The problem is that with things like the World Trade Organizations, they pretty much force certain countries, like developing nations, to have to adopt monoculture type, or not just monocultures in terms of agriculture, but like in terms of their economies in general, and also with the conditionalities that they impose on certain nations. A lot of the conditions come with, you have to only export these types of resources, and it's just another way to get their claw on these nations. So a lot of the time they don't have a choice. And also, I don't know what it's like in Brazil with this, but in terms of things like Monsanto and these big massive corporations going into these nations and basically forcing them to adopt their agriculture, and then making them, I mean, there's a whole thing we could talk about that like on one whole stream alone. But in terms of the fact that I think this is something that the left in general doesn't talk about enough, because imagine the power that something like Monsanto can have over a whole fucking food industry. Like if they control seeds, then they control everything. Basically, they control food. They control our lives.
Yeah, I think it was Napalm Death who sung a song back in the day. That's it. The lyrics were very simple: multinational corporations, genocide of the starving nations. Simple as that.
Damn. Yeah.
Repeated that over and over for about a minute. Well, it's like 30 seconds. It was a Napalm Death song, though.
Remember when I talked about how the farmers, the agropecuary guys run Brazil from the start?
Yeah.
So, like, I say that because it's true. Ever since we were a colony, the owners of the farms, they were the political elite, So even though we were a monarchy, we were actually kind of oligarchy, The farmers, and when I say farmers, I don't think it's the word I want to say, because when I say farmer, I think of the worker on the farm, not the owner of the farm.
Yeah.
So I will start to refer to them as we refer to them here in Brazil. There are colonels, We call them the coronels. So in English is colonel, I guess. Because even though they weren't necessarily military guys, they act like a mob, they were the rich dudes on the region, so they had the security, and of course they had their thugs to go to the smaller farmers and collect the taxes.
Yeah, they are de facto regional monopolies.
Exactly. We had that from everywhere in Brazil. Actually, in the very beginning, Brazil didn't have states. We had capitanias. I don't know how to translate that in
Capitanias, yeah.
Yeah, it was basically like regions that were relegated to these generals, these colonels, these rich dudes with the military power,
Yeah.
Basically feudalism, but not really, but basically.
And that's one of the things that needs not to happen in a socialist country, not allowing monopolies and reform the land. Agrarian reform is it's a cornerstone of a socialist country in which the land belongs to those who work it.
Exactly. And then like that dynamic it still hasn't died, in the Northwest, in the interior especially. It still exists. There you still have these colonels, these big owners of land, and they are the reason why we keep deforesting, keep setting fire to the Amazon. Because they want to expand. They want more land to raise more cows, and more soy. To sell more. And sometimes even not really to sell, because one of the things they love to do is to throw away food so the price don't go down. So yeah, it's capitalism.
Yeah, it's like a third of all food just gets wasted, gets thrown away. Whilst billions starve. Yeah.
The famous capitalist efficiency.
Oh yeah.
Like the agropecuary business is the one that most wastes water. It takes rivers to feed the cows, to grow the plants. And all of that just to waste a lot of it so the price don't go down.
Yeah.
But aside from that, they always had political power too. We had a period here in Brazil that we jumped from sugar farms to coffee. There was a period where all of the world coffees came from Brazil, came from São Paulo even.
Yeah.
That's why São Paulo is the richest region on Brazil. And like they decided who was the president. It was a period called the coffee with milk politics.
Okay.
Yeah, because like you had São Paulo with the coffee, and I guess Minas Gerais, it's the neighbor state, with not only the mines, they are called general mines in English, the mines, but also with the cows, the milk,
the cattle, yeah.
And it was basically revezação. One time it was a São Paulo president, São Paulo born president, and the next time it would be a Minas Gerais born president. So, and they would be switching, every term.
Política de café con leche.
And then we had this one time when they kind of, I guess São Paulo kind of refused to switch, so they elected another São Paulo guy, and Minas Gerais didn't like that, and so a civil war broke out. And yeah, like a civil war between São Paulo and Minas that kind of went nowhere. And then everyone was like, oh, okay, I guess other states can have a president too, And like, if I recall correctly, it was like 29, 1929.
Yeah.
So very recent,
Yeah.
And it were those colonels who decided those things. They were the oligarchy in Brazil, and like that's why I say that Brazil never had democracy. Even after the military dictatorship ended, we didn't really have democracy because we didn't. I mean, we don't vote for the ministers. We don't decide who are the ministers.
Of course.
We don't vote for the president of Congress. We have the president of the republic, and the Congress has a president. The Senate has a president too, and
they still call it democracy, right?
Exactly. The president of the Congress can just he approves the laws. Even after everyone votes, he says that has the final say. And then a lot of times it's a battle between the president of the Congress and the president of the Republic. Right now we have Maia as the president of the Congress, Rodrigo Maia, and he's always, trying to stop Bolsonaro doing things, but like he's not a leftist, he's not the opposition. He's just trying to maintain the illusion of democracy. It's a power struggle between those two. And also Maia never goes too far in stopping Bolsonaro because he knows that if Bolsonaro is next, he's the first one who will get arrested or
killed,
or has his political rights destroyed.
Revoked, yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah, and like Bolsonaro has the support of our current colonels, our current agropecuary dudes. So much so that we say we have 3 tables at the Congress, and that is true even before Bolsonaro. That is the table of the agropecuary, the table of the bullet, and the table of the Bible. So you have the big owners of farm, the big land owners. You have the big evangelical leaders, that also are politicians, and you also have the lobbyists for the guns, the weapons, things, So even though they weren't able to approve yet a relaxation of the guns laws, they are always trying to increase the power of the police, So it's a plague in our political landscape, but also it's not a surprise that they exist, because we are not in a democracy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Guys, I'm gonna have to leave very soon.
Don't worry, we've been going on for about an hour and a half. So if it's okay with you, we're gonna wrap it up here. If you want to say some closing statements.
I don't know. I just,
little bit of hope.
I guess, yeah. I don't know if I still have hope. Right now I don't have, to be honest. But I know that giving up is not an option.
Exactly.
I always think that, like, here in Brazil, I am seen as a white dude. It doesn't matter if internationally I am seen as a Latin American guy. Here in Brazil, I am part of the white people.
Yeah.
I don't say that with pride. It's just I know where I am speaking from.
Yeah.
And if it is depressing and hard for me, imagine how fucking impossible it is for non-white peoples in Brazil,
And so get out there, organize and do one campaign at a time. Chip away at those motherfuckers. They will fall.
Exactly. I am happy to say that our non-white people are organizing. Basically every indigenous people in Brazil is a militant. And a lot of them, especially the most vocal ones on social media, they are all Marxists. So that's really cool. I have a friend that she is indigenous and she is a Marxist. So that's bring me a little bit of hope. A lot of black people are getting into Marxist politics too. And they are organizing, they are doing the work on the favelas, and that's great. And yeah, man, just go organize. I am trying to get into a party. It's just that they are not responding to me. Which it makes me kind of sad, but someday I will get in. But yeah, like I think that every Brazilian leftist should organize, should try to join a party or join a local organization, and do direct work. Only YouTube things are not enough, but they do help a lot too. But,
that's right.
But like nothing beats direct action.
Yeah.
I always think of that Gramsci quote that we must have optimism of the will, even if we have pessimism of the intellect. And I remember reading this thing about this woman who said, like, people were asking her, I don't know, she was so super, super poor, super disenfranchised person of color living, I think it was in India. And people were like, oh, how do you keep going? And she was like, well, because pessimism is a privilege that many people don't have, or something like that. And I think that it's so true. I mean, I think you're right in what you say, like we have relative privileges in some ways. And I mean, a lot of people don't have the luxury of that. They have to deal with everyday life. They have to keep going. Otherwise, I don't know, what's the alternative? So
yeah, that's why I said that giving up is not an option.
Yeah,
it would be very easy for me to just give up. I am white in Brazil. A lot of Bolsonaro's politics don't affect me directly. So it would be really easy for me to just close Twitter, close Facebook, and don't participate in politics anymore. But I can participate. I can do work again. I can get informed and try to do something. When a lot of people in worse situations, they just have to keep living. They don't have the option to not be political,
Exactly. And if we ignore our privileges, then we further entrench people into oppressive systems, the oppressive systems that we privilege from.
Exactly.
So yeah, absolutely, definitely. Thank you so much for everything you've been saying. it's helped me a lot, and I don't know, I became so infuriated, but in a like, fuck, this needs to change kind of way. What I'm listening to.
I wish Brazilian people were more angry.
Yeah.
We are
I wish
just
English
so
people were more angry as well.
Yeah.
But pacifism is something that we're indoctrinated with our whole fucking lives. This isn't a natural state of humanity, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, everything can be changed. We just need the tools, the work, and the people, and we're on our way. So let's not despair and keep working.
This is a decisive historical moment that we're living through with multiple crises. If we can't change things now, then when are we going to change things? So,
Right on.
seize the opportunity in whatever way you can, wherever you are in the world. So yeah.
So that's gonna be it for today. Let's continue this discussion soon. I hope. Marcos, thank you very so fucking much for being with us. Obrigado,
Thank
querido.
you.
Thank
So,
you.
and Kathrin, thank you so much.